Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sicilian Corner podcast. Partly cloudy, partly sunny, rain. But I'll tell you, this rain, Louis, I've never seen my grass look better.
Good.
It's gorgeous, but I'm cutting it every 2 days.
You can't go outside and do anything with it, but because it's raining so much.
Well, no, I cut it. I have an umbrella on the John Deere.
You're not supposed to cut it in the rain, are you?
I don't care. I mulch it. I don't pick it up. So I leave all the grass clippings
There you
on
go.
the grass.
Yep.
So it's good for it. You know, it's nitrogen that I'm not paying for.
I agree.
You know, and that's the way you got to
Come
look
to
at
home
it.
and tell everybody because they don't believe
Now on Plum Island, growing grass has to be an issue,
it.
right?
Yes.
All the
I have
same.
a little grass. Not much. I have a little yard. Then a whole yard of seagrass too, so, which I don't have to do anything with.
You know, first of all, do you know this guy next to me over here?
Mike Sullivan? Yes, I've heard of him.
It's not Mike Sullivan. It's Mayor Mikey.
I'm sorry,
Mayor
Mikey.
Mikey.
No, you're Mayor
Every
Mikey.
time,
He's the ambassador.
He's Mayor Mikey. Yeah.
up in Wyndham, one of our listeners, who's a very dear friend of both Louis and myself, he's a carpenter by trade, built homes, and now he's retired. But he made a beautiful sign, and he got a router and wrote scribe Mayor Mikey. And where he did that, he did it in white, and he varnished the rest of the wood. Beautiful job. Just absolutely beautiful. So I have it on the cabana out there.
Oh,
And he did. Roger, he's so talented.
that's great.
Me, when it comes to, I wish I paid more attention to my dad. I just don't have that. I don't think I have the patience. That's probably, I'm going to say it's that because I don't think I'm stupid. I think I can pick things up pretty easily, but I get upset. That's why I can't get anything that's got instructions. I told her, it frustrates the living bejeebers out of me. It drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
This, and they make a big deal out of nothing. Take this piece, interlock it with this, and you're ready to go. Not, this has got to be this. Make sure it's this side up. Make sure it's 4 inches from the. What are you kidding me?
I can do the rough stuff. I'm okay with the rough stuff, but when it's finish work, that drives me nuts.
Yeah,
I get the corner cuts or anything like that.
Like I said, I wish my dad could do anything. I mean, anything.
Yeah.
Very, very. Plumbing, do a little bit of plumbing. Carpentry, a little bit of carpentry.
At the ex house, I put a tin ceiling in. I refer to it as my Vietnam.
Really?
It's the worst job ever. It was
Really?
terrible. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
Oh, it was-
But no, this is a nice time of the year. This to me, I know it's been a wet season. I understand that. But, we really needed the rain coming in. And now we have it. So enough is enough. I think Saturday's might get some thunderstorms and stuff like that. And now you moved, and now you're a resident of Salisbury.
What do they say? The Merrimack Valley with sand, right? Everywhere you go, it's a pool of retirees. Carmen Iannicelli, you know Carmen very well. Every time I go out,
how many 45 games are going on during the week?
there's 3 or 4 during the week. Every club we go to, Carmen beats us there by 10 minutes. He's still working, I think, at 3 different places down there. It's been.
Is he really?
He's outstanding. He just came back from Florida. I think he was down there for a couple of months, but it's been great. And everybody there that's I think originally from the Methuen area, Lawrence area. Somehow we vacationed as kids.
Yeah.
But that was the old days when we remembered the roller coaster and
The whale.
Ferris wheel, the whale.
whale.
So I'm living really where the whale used to be.
Jenny.
That is now my house. I'm living it's new construction. So
Brand new and
we've
away
been there
from the force of the ocean.
Yeah.
You got protection.
So it's been
Because
great.
The tides, they're coming in further and further and further. And some of the beach erosion, oh my God. And you saw it this winter, all those truckloads of sand that was dropped off at Salisbury.
Come on, Mike. They're building a big condo down there right on the beach with an underground parking garage like 20 feet from the surf. So how bad can it be, Mike?
That's going to be coming up. And, when you talk a little bit about, too, the insurance product, you're talking about, the cost of flood insurance, the cost of of the big
homeowner.
claims too
Yeah.
that have happened.
How many insurance companies do you
the
know that
coastal-
have gone out of business?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with, so it was, the timing was right for us. Mount Vernon house, we sold that after 32 years, and all the kids are gone, and I'm still working almost full time, but it's been great living up at the beach now and connecting with some of our old friends that we haven't seen in a while, but knowing that everybody's in a good position. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
It's good to hear.
Nice and close. Yeah.
Talking with our good friend Ray DeFury this morning.
Yeah.
And he said, make sure you tell Mike I said hello. He's attending a family wedding, so he's not in the area.
Yeah, he's in what, North Dakota, or
He's
is
in
he
someplace, I don't
know?
know.
But when you look back at, I was talking to Lou earlier about the old radio station that was on Franklin Street, and then meeting all you guys.
You remember that, huh?
I do remember that, but growing up as kids, again, before the PC came around and the intelligent phones, your news came from the radio and the newspaper,
the Tribune,
right? And then when cable came in, right, Lou? When cable TV came in,
Yep.
that became another outlet. And when you talk about, the old campaign days, that's really where you needed to campaign. But the key was
when local radio made a difference.
Local radio. A lot of people got their news here all day, tuning in. But the part that
Bruce
think,
Arnold. What did you think of Bruce Arnold?
old
I know
days.
you loved him.
I'm going to ask you guys some questions in a little bit, but
Don't make them hard.
One of the things that I loved looking back is that the connections and the friends we made from networking the way we used to do it, instead of sending a text message or a Facebook
It's so
thing.
cold.
You end up with friends for life. And it was built on some great stories that we had over the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the old Feast of the Three Saints, the music that you would have and the connections. And I remember this guy here, Mike, used to call City Hall and said, listen, we're bringing this band in. And I always knew that there was going to be an ask. And I said, all right, how much do you need, Mike? And he'd say, we just need $45,000 to make it work. So we'd call the community development department and see if there was that block grant money that came in and said, here you go. Just give them the money, because we got to keep Mike doing what
But look at the people we brought to the city.
10,000 people on a Friday
More.
night.
It'd be 12 to 14,000. We did Frankie Valley. The police department at that time said there was close to 18,000 people there.
I mean,
free concert,
and people left with a different impression of
the
Lawrence,
city.
And that's what you guys all did. And Lou, you did.
You know how many people from the different societies out of Boston, Louis, we met, and you met a lot of them because you were very integral part of what was going on. Because we used to do the shows on Friday right out of the Common. We were on for 2 hours at that time, and I think we went from 12 to 11 to 1.
11 to 1,
right?
I think, yeah.
And at City Hall, they would all come out at noontime for their lunch, putting up their chairs, tying them with rope, tying them with metal bands. Larry Lefebvre's sister Pat, that whole group.
So great.
There'd be like 15, 20 girls out there. They made this right after the reserve section for our sponsors at that time. They would start setting up. Make sure nobody touch me. I got they were threatening me over here. But it was nice. And, people still talk about it. It's amazing at the feet. I'm not as active as I used to be.
It's still a big event.
But I still meet a lot of people here and there. And, they said, gee, it was so nice. And it comes with a hefty price tag. That's the problem. It comes with a hefty price tag. And you'd like to keep maintaining it, but it gets to a point where, how do you raise that kind of money?
Right.
We were first fortunate. We had Doc Ossity, God bless his soul.
Yeah.
Doc Ossity and Joe Farrow. And, we had some really heavy duty support, because without them, I had corporate fundraising, and it was a job and a half. Nobody likes to go out and ask people for money. They really don't, especially when you're asking for substantial.
You had some good
Uh,
seed money that came in through those guys, Mike. You know,
Oh,
yeah.
oh my gosh. And the feast really, I mean, the second year that we did the feast show, and I got to say one thing about Mayor Dowling, you know, it was her that really helped push this to a different level, you know, and then of course I got stuck with you, but
And then we pushed it to a real different level.
but it was a lot of fun, and it highlighted the city.
Yeah.
It did. It put the city in a different light. Perception works both ways.
Yeah.
And
you know what though, Mike? And when you talk about, you and the Ray D. Fioris and the Larry Lefebvre's and the Patty Dowling, the Patty Carrolls, we were all people that grew up in a pretty poor area
True.
that had a really big allegiance to the city because of the friendships that we made. So these events, being the Hibernians or St. Alfio's or all the different events that the city would host every year, is very important to keep that alive. And the fear is that the young generation isn't really, they don't have the passion that probably you had, because of the history and the fun we had growing up here.
There's something unique about the city of Lawrence. I grew up in Haverhill, another mill town here on the river, very similar, but it's Haverhill's large and Lawrence is small, and seems like one big neighborhood.
Right.
And it always had that neighborhood feel to it. And just people grew up, went to school together, lived together, had a good pride for the city. In Haverhill, we were all over the place in different schools leading up to it. So it just seemed to be a neighborhood aspect of Lawrence that didn't exist elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And then in latter years, Mayor Ferrantini took over, and Jim, the way we feel about the city of Lawrence, he bled Haverhill colors, let me tell you.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking
I mean,
Haverhill.
he was so involved in everything.
I'm not knocking the city of Haverhill. It's just it had a different setup because it's one of the largest cities in the state from an area standpoint, and we all grew up in different neighborhoods and went, played together in different groups and things like that. So we didn't have that one community feel that Lawrence seemed to have.
Yeah, I mean, with Lawrence,
it's only 7 square miles.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
city is small,
and
right?
the river was in the middle of it. So in Lawrence, it was more like, are you from
North
the
Lawrence?
north side of the river, which was where the poor people lived, and we were the south
don't
side.
start that.
No, we were the south side. That's where we were the
Where
rich
did you
people.
where did you grow up?
We were South Union and Cayman Street, right across from the old British
South Lawrence.
Club.
South Lawrence.
we were South Lawrence.
Okay.
And Lou, like I said, Haverhill, I think, is 22 square miles. So there's a lot of
There are parts of
travel.
Haverhill that don't even admit they're from
Yeah.
Haverhill.
Yeah.
Bradford doesn't admit they're from
But
Haverhill.
as kids, we never really, we went to North Lawrence to go to the theaters, right? All of the
On
Broadway
Broadway. And when you didn't have much money, you went to the premiere. The only thing with the premiere was there was no lighting.
Yeah.
And so you'd go to the premiere to try and hook up with a girl, but it was so dark you didn't know if you were a girl or a guy. You couldn't tell what the boy, that place was a little bit shady, a little bit. But something for a quarter, whatever it was.
Of course.
You
And you
see-
saw 2 movies,
Hey,
right?
cartoons.
Intermission.
Hey. Then when you were loaded, and you had your paper route, then you could go to Broadway, and you had the 4 theaters in a row, and you had the Broadway and the Palace and the Modern and the Star, and you had a bunch of them. I mean, at one time, I think there was 8 or 9
Sure.
throughout the city.
Yep.
And it was quite the thing. When it was all lit up, you see those marquees on a Friday, Saturday night.
Sure.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And Broadway was a wide street. It's the same width as Essex Street.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original plan because, as you know, and most people, the city of Lawrence was a planned industrial city. And something, I give them a lot of credit. The way things were divided, the way the canals went in.
Sure.
And how many jobs were provided. And back then, they weren't making a hell of a lot of money, but it was a better lifestyle than what they had.
Well, back then they said, Monday through Friday, when the mills were running full steam, there would be 100 and something thousand people that would come into the city.
Oh, sure.
Right? That would,
And the population was close to that.
Yeah.
And then in the 60s, it went down close to 60,000.
Yeah.
But now, it's close to 90. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
I remember when I was a kid, I had friends who were Native Americans, and they were in the parade in Lawrence. And I did the parade with them in Lawrence. I thought I was in New York City. It looks like
well, Essex Street, it's 1 mile long. It had the trolley tracks going down the center of Essex Street. It was just, the blue laws, they'd be closed on Sunday. We've talked about this on the year before. And on Sundays, your mother would put you in your stroller and go for a walk down Essex Street. At Christmas time, it was magical.
Yep.
Between Sutherland's and all the different department stores.
Sure.
That had displays going, What year were you, you served 2 terms, right?
I served, speaking of Patricia Dowling, when she was at the end of her first term in 2001, she left in October to become a judge. So that was an open seat. And so that was the year I got elected.
Okay.
So it was 2001. And, typically.
You went to 2010, right?
January 4th of 2010, I was out.
Describe the moment, Mike, when you decided you were going to run for mayor.
So it's interesting with Mayor Dowling, who I knew Patty as Patty Carroll in high school.
Yeah.
Right. And so anyways, it was.
You didn't go out with her, did you?
No.
She was just checking.
Actually, a year behind me.
I'm just trying to keep the
I got a cheerleader picture with her because she was one of our cheerleaders. And
doesn't surprise
in
me.
my 1974 album, there's a nice picture of Patty in there, and she's a great kid, and she did a great job. But it was April of 2001, and I remember this because I was on the city council. I was just my first term on the city council, and we were at a Chamber of Commerce annual dinner.
We have a Chamber of Commerce here in Lawrence?
Merrimack
Valley?
Since Joe Bevilacqua was born, we had a Chamber of Commerce. And now Michael Bevilacqua was doing a great job. But
tell me about it.
So
he's the future.
We're at the chamber meeting, and Patty, this would have been her re-election year, which is this year is the 4th year. And she pulled me aside and she said, just so you know, tomorrow I'm making the announcement that I'm not going to run for a second term. Geez, and I said, geez, Patty, Mayor, why not? I don't think anybody was going to run against her. She said, well, I got a few things going on. I think 4 years was enough. And I got a potential to become a judge. Jane Swift was governor at the time. My brother Kevin was
Jane Swift
over at A&F. So anyways, and she says, why don't you take a look at that? And I said, what are you? I thought you liked me. I said, Mayor, I thought you liked me. Are you kidding me? And I said, I have 4 kids at the house. And she says, well, talk to your brothers. Because, there's only a window of opportunity that comes up every year or so in life. So talked to my brothers. I said, what do you think? And I said, well, I mean, you throw your hat in the ring. But the last person I had to talk to was my mother, Anna Abadi. And I said,
your mother.
She said, it's up to you. If you want to go, we're behind you full time. So that was it. So my year was, the campaign was 2001. So election day was November 6th. And I'm thinking, we get sworn in January, the first Tuesday, however the charter reads in January.
The next day.
Jimmy McGravy was the city clerk. He calls me the next day. And didn't even sober up yet at the time. I got the phone call and he said, listen, we'd like to, because there's an interim right now. The council president was the acting mayor. We'd like to swear you in a little early if it's okay.
A little
I
early.
said, well, what's a little early, Jimmy? He goes, tomorrow morning. So that's it. So I took office November 8th of 2001. And interesting because it was right after 9/11. I mean, when you talk about very tense time, not only for the country, but if you remember, within the next few months, there was the anthrax threats that were showing up at
everywhere,
city halls. And so it was kind of a tense time. So
I remember doing the talk shows at the time, and you just kind of alluded to it. And I'm curious because I used to say all the time when I was doing the talk shows, who the hell would want that job? The Mayor of Lawrence. Is that how you felt when she talked to you?
Well, you know what happened? Just quickly, there's always a reason. This is what I tell some of the people that are running for city council, school committee. Do it for a positive reason. Don't do it just to be an anti which is kind of what you get. What happened with me was,
but it's a brutal job in the city at that time. In the early 2000s, it was a brutal job.
It was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it
You
always
have
is
the
tough
right
because
temperament for it.
Lawrence is a tough city. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the reason why I ran for city council was I was coaching Pop Warner at the stadium, your old stomping ground, Mike. And the stadium.
Hey, try not to hit me. I'm getting old.
This is
You're bruising me here.
This was in 1998 and 1999. God bless these kids. We had no money. Pop Warner we used tape for belts, and we would come out to the stadium to play, and the place was a disaster. Yep. There was no running water. The field was mud. No concession stands. And there was, if you remembered back then, some of us listening, there was police tape around the bleachers because you couldn't go more than a third of the way up.
The cement was rotten.
Because of the structure. Uh-huh. So anyways, we were playing Acton Boxborough, and those kids came in. There was about 30 of them. They all had, green uniforms, names on the back, gym bags. And I was on the Acton Boxborough side, and I was listening to a couple of parents that were just observing the stadium, and they said, boy, this place is a real dump. Yeah. Just like we heard. And I was listening to that. And after some of the games, we and a couple of other guys, we would go to the Clatter pub. And I was telling the story, and I said to these couple of guys, I said, we ought to, I mean, they're right. If you came in from Chelmsford, Drake, wherever, and you observed that stadium at the time, and our kids were playing, they were exactly right. It was a disaster.
It was really going down.
But anyways, long story short.
What if I told you 20 years from then, 25 years from now, there's going to be a football field on a roof of a parking garage in downtown?
Right, sure. Look what Sal the police done. Yeah. But back then, we a number of us sat at the Clatter. We had a couple of drinks, and we said, we ought to get involved just to help the cause. Can we maybe raise some money, get a little rehab going? And we said, let's run for city council. And that's how that started.
I love that story. We're going to get back. I want to mention Nunzio's name too.
Yes.
Nunzio DeMarca. But I need to take a break.
Yep.
Because I'm 2 minutes behind, and Louis getting really ticked.
No, I'm fine.
He's really getting ticked. We'll be right back, everybody.
Ciao, this is Esther of You, Me, and Sicily. I want to talk to you about Tommy Amin and the great staff at Butcher Boy Market. Families, foodies, and home chefs come together at Butcher Boy to talk good food and create traditions. They offer the best in quality cuts of beef, pork, lamb, poultry, and restaurant-style steaks and chops. Produce? All of their produce is hand-selected to complement any meal or even to make it your main course. Their deli serves fresh roast beef, turkey, and beautiful imported Italian cold cuts, cheeses, and antipasto. And don't forget the Butcher Boy Bakery, featuring sweet delectables from all over the state, as well as their very own bakery. That's Butcher Boy, where the secret to a great steak is, of course, the steak. Located at 1077 Osgood Street in North Andover, Massachusetts, in the Butcher Boy Plaza. Ciao!
This is Tom Zappala. Located in the heart of downtown Haverhill, the Haverhill Beef Company is a full-service, old-fashioned butcher shop and meat market that continues to be a valued family tradition since 1952. Peter and Monica Carboni's Haverhill Beef offers individualized service from an outstanding selection of marinated sirloin tips, homemade sausage, marinated chicken, and thick, juicy Chairman Reserve steaks. Your family deserves the best, so call Peter at 978-374-4795 or visit their website at www.haverhillbeef.com.
When you dine at Ristorante Melisse in Amesbury, Massachusetts, you feel at home while enjoying an authentic Italian dining experience not to be forgotten. From the appetizer to dessert, you won't regret your choice. Bring your cravings and appetites. They promise you won't leave hungry or without leftovers for the next day. Takeout and catering are also available. Give them a call or visit them online for the menu, online ordering, and reservations. RistoranteMelisse.com. That's RistoranteMolise.com or call 978-388-4844. Ristorante Melisse, where you're treated like family. Legacy Care Law Firm provides estate planning and elder law services to people in the greater Merrimack Valley and southern New Hampshire areas, with offices in North Andover and Woburn, Massachusetts, as well as Nashua and Salem, New Hampshire. Discussing family and financial matters with an attorney can be intimidating, but our goal is to help you prepare for the future as you preserve your legacy. We help clients qualify for government medical benefits and ensure their estates are preserved for their families so they don't need to worry about their estate being wiped out by high nursing home expenses. Legacy Care Law Firm attorneys are here to support your journey toward a more secure financial future.
At Catadella Funeral Home, we reinvest in our business to provide your family with the best facilities. It begins with a beautifully landscaped exterior, parking for 250 vehicles, and a comfortable and inviting access to our renovated interior. Funerals can be costly, so you should review and compare plans to make sure you receive services that are fairly priced. I invite you to experience the Catadella difference in cost, facility, and service.
Catadella's, honoring and celebrating the lives of the people we loved, providing exceptional care since 1929.
Italian artisan cuisine combines simple, fresh ingredients with time-honored preparation to create an incredible culinary experience. At Tuscan Kitchen, located in Salem's historic Depot District, talented chefs prepare everything in-house from scratch for all to see. Guests enjoy their meal literally in our kitchen as food is prepared right in front of you. Wood ovens burn from morning till night, roasting vegetables, baking bread, and firing delightful thin-crust pizzas. Prime steaks are seared on a wood grill. A rotisserie slowly roasts marinated whole chickens and lamb, while a pasta maker creates fresh fettuccine. More than just artisan cuisine, Tuscan Kitchen features the wine bar, live entertainment, weekly wine tastings, and elegant private dining and event space. Call 603-952-4875 or visit TuscanKitchen.com to make a reservation and learn more about the culinary adventure that awaits. In Italy, cooking is an art form. Tuscan Kitchen. Experience artisan Italian.
Orthopedics Northeast and Essex Orthopedics have joined forces as Mobility Bone and Joint Institute to bring improved access and outstanding medical care. While our name has changed, our dedication to exceptional care remains the same as it has for the past 30 years. Same location, 16 Pelham Road, Salem, New Hampshire.
This is Cindy
and Mike Kunstler,
owners and operators of Four Oaks Country Club and Grazie Italian Restaurant in Drake, Massachusetts.
Grazie Italian Restaurant is the hidden gem of the Merrimack Valley.
Why is that?
We have an incredible chef, Oscar Figueroa.
In the words of local famous chef and restaurant owner Lydia Shire,
Oscar thrives on hard work.
He is capable and gifted.
No one makes better food. Scallops, seared to perfection.
House-made ravioli with farm-fresh local corn.
And buttery, tender, lazy man's lobster, just to name a few.
You have to come experience Grazie Italian Restaurant for yourself.
Grazie Italian Restaurant, located at Four Oaks Country Club, 80 Meadow Creek Drive in Drake, Massachusetts. Hope to see you soon.
And we are back with Mayor Mikey Sullivan of Lawrence, Massachusetts. When we were going to break, you were talking about the stadium, and it got in such a state that it was so run down, and parts of it you couldn't use. And it was an embarrassment to the city because it's a gateway. You know, you're coming into the city and,
right.
You know, and you come across this, and for a memorial stadium, shame, shame, shame.
Well, you're right. And again, growing up there, that's all we knew. But looking from the eyes of an outsider, you realize something needs to be done, because it's like what you said, it's the image. With the St. Outfields, it's all about the image. How do you get people coming in and leaving with a good feeling? And we felt the same way about the stadium and the kids. And then it ended up being when you realized as a city councilor, raising a little bit of money wouldn't make a dent in a structure like that. So one of the things I had done early on when I got elected mayor was I had that on my agenda, that
was a principle.
We need to renovate the stadium. That was the reason why I got into politics in the first place. And then once you get into, and Patty Darling was a great help with those 3 months of helping me understand the high school construction projects, a couple of the grammar schools, what it takes to renovate a stadium, where the money comes from, and et cetera. So it was a great experience. We got the job done. I think we had the the actual ribbon cutting in the fall of 2007. And we had a football game between Central Catholic and Lawrence High, and we had Billy Quinlan was at that game.
Billy Quinlan.
And Tommy Carroll,
sure,
who just passed. But we had some great athletes that played in the old days that were at that first game, and it was a really nice feeling.
You know, Billy Quinlan played for the Packers, and I played defensive end for Lawrence High in '61, which he was a defensive end, as you know. And we'd go to summer camp, and, you know, he'd really work because I had his position.
Right.
And, you know, he'd say to me, "You think you're pretty good, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Get down the 3-point stance. Hit me as hard as you can." Now, there's this guy. To me, he was bigger than life. You know, he's 280 pounds, 6'2", whatever the case might be. And I'd get down, and he says, "All right, go." And I'd hit him as hard as I barely freaking moved him. If I moved him 4 inches, he says, and then in front of everybody, "That's it? That's all you had?" I said, "Let me try it again." Get down, and I whack him again. Maybe a step. He says, "Nah," "You're doing it all wrong. This is what you got to do." Our shoulder pads had strings.
Yes.
Okay. He hit me so freaking hard, besides landing on my butt, the strings broke and the pads rode up, and I got cut underneath this area here. Well, that's fleshy. It bleeds like crazy. I had blood pouring out of my uniform. So now my shoulder pads are like this, Louis. They're completely lopsided. I says, "Okay, that was good. Now it's my turn." He's looking at me like I'm a freaking nut. He says, "Go in the clubhouse and get that cleaned up. You're going to need a couple of stitches." You know, but he was fast. He said to me, "What?" And I was like the 3rd fastest guy in the team. He says, "I can beat you in a sprint." I'm looking at, to me, he was overweight, you know. He says, "No problem." I says, "You're nuts." He says, "Let's go over to the stadium," because we used to practice in a different field. So we get down. The whole team is there. 1, 2, 3, go. Hey, I take off the line. I don't even see him on my right shoulder. I says, "I'm smoking him." About the 50-yard line, he started catching up because the sprint was going to be 100 yards. All of a sudden, the son of a gun is right alongside. He sounded like a train, You know, we ended up tying. To this day, I don't know how he did it.
Well, you know, that's a good historic story that you tied the great Billy Quinlan in a 100-yard dash.
That man couldn't put, God bless him, he couldn't put a paragraph together without 2 sentences being swears.
Oh, I know.
Jeepers creepers. Yeah. He was crazy.
Hey, so Lawrence had, when you look back at Robert Goulet, Billy Quinlan, Robert Frost.
There was some wood.
You know, you had some, people that really.
Who was the actress that lived in South Lawrence on Dorchester Street? They show a movie still at
the. Todd.
Todd, yeah. That was quite a thing. We have a few people saying hello. Andy Parisi's with us every week. Barbara's my significant other. Nancy Patera DeMarco, she listens in every week. And these are the people that, at the feast, that's all you do. To walk up Common Street at one time during the feast, Louis, would take you at least 45 minutes to an hour. Because you take 5 steps, you're meeting somebody. 5 steps, you're meeting. They come from all over.
Yep.
They come to the city of Lawrence.
Well, and Mike, getting back to the stadium, the issue you brought up when we were off the air is why are people playing soccer there now? Because of our old friend, city councilor,
Nunzio
DeMarca.
I admired that in him.
He was on the stadium committee, and if you go to the stadium now and you look at the plaque, his name is on there.
Yeah, I know.
But he was the one that worked with the contractors and expanded the scope to say, how can we widen the field a little bit and get soccer?
Yeah.
And they worked with him. He, again, it was his ideas that made a lot of sense, and we were able to do that while we were renovating it.
And that was his favorite sport.
He was the best.
Between that and driving Fiats.
Yeah.
I don't know which one he loved the most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, and his daughter.
The city had a lot of pluses, and can I tell you a quick Larry Lefebvre story? So it's 61. Going back to night, that was my first year at Lawrence High. And for whatever reason, somehow I got elected to be vice president of my class. And we had like close to 500 kids. I just got.
You drew the short straw.
Yeah.
To say, yeah.
So Larry Lefebvre is president. I make as vice president, and Phyllis Fioli, God bless her soul, was the secretary. And back then, what they do is they take your members of your class, the class officers, they take them to City Hall, and you would spend the day with the mayor, and you'd get a chance to sit behind the desk and all this, that, and the other. It was quite an honor. I mean, you're a kid. You're 16 years old. And for some reason or another, I don't know. I was telling Louis this, so I actually showed Louis the picture. I was the vice president. By right, Larry Lefebvre should have been sitting at the mayor's desk. But the photographer, I forget who it was, says, "You sit here. Larry, you're on this side. Phyllis, you're on that side." And they took the picture. And it's to this day, it drives Larry Lefebvre nuts. Because we still talk quite a bit.
Yeah.
Larry was a good ball player. He was a good teammate. And, our guys that graduated back then played on that team. A majority of us, there's probably we're 14 guys, 12 to 14 guys. We still meet for breakfast 60 some odd years later.
So good.
And something, it's a great time. The war stories,
sure.
They get better and better. You should have been all pro. But Larry's was, like I said, a good teammate. I just want to say, Barbara, you got a gift from Mayor Mikey. And what I have here is a fan. And this fan, you can't believe the nice air it throws. And this is a gift from your insurance company, right?
It's $1,000.
What's the name of your company?
It's $1,000 gift. It's compliments of Arbella. The batteries are included, Mike. So, right, as you're playing this, and we have a red one as well. So that's a $2,000 gift. And Lou has his fan as well.
For tax purposes only.
For tax purposes only. Compliments of Arbella Insurance.
There you go.
One of the leading companies in Massachusetts.
You do a lot of business with them?
Yeah, they're one of our biggest companies, but they're out of Quincy and they've done a great job, A-rated company, but they do home, auto, business insurance.
Now, T.A. Sullivan is your company, 60 years old.
Well, 63 years old. 63. My dad started the business in 1963 in the first floor of South Union and Common and Cambridge Street in the two family that we grew up in.
Wow.
And then
your mother, Anna.
So my dad started the business and then unfortunately, tragically, he passed away in 1970 at a young age of 47 and left my mom, who was 45, raising us four boys and a business. And, as the immigrants did back then, she took care of her mother, who was only spoke Italian and who was blind. So my grandmother always lived with us.
So your mother had all that responsibility?
My mother had it all going, and God bless her, she, until 2 years ago, when she passed away, she was coming in the office almost every day until a year before she passed away.
Salute.
So I think that's the sign of you stay busy, you stay healthy, you have fun, and that's what she did. And we were blessed to be able to work with our family together, my mom every day. And my brother Kevin has a good story too. When he ran for mayor back then, again, this is all part of
He was
my
before
mom.
you though, right?
He was 25 years old. He was from 1986 to 94. He was the youngest mayor in the country. He got elected. And
was there ever brothers that were mayor before you guys? There were brothers that were mayor of the city of Lawrence?
So we're the only two.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And we're the only two that are still breathing too. So we talk about that a little bit. But, it's good times. Like his 8 years, he had a lot of, his issues were the arson, the auto theft. Again, when you talk about the 80s into the 90s, it was
auto theft was, the city had a really fraud, big blemish.
Big blemish.
And that became an insurance crisis too, didn't it?
Big insurance fraud, a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
Just a really tough time, And then he went on to work when Bill Weld was governor. He went on to to work in the Weld administration, and he's done well for himself. So, but again, he was.
And you haven't done too bad for yourself.
Well, he was the trailblazer. He was 23 when he was alderman. He was an alderman at 23.
How did he get so interested in politics so young?
He just loved people, and he loved campaigning, and
is either that or work at Market Basket.
Yeah.
Hey.
But he always said,
then, I think every kid should have went to Demoulas University for at least a year.
You're right. Yeah.
Kevin had
You wouldn't have the BS that goes around now.
My son,
everybody, everything gets handed.
Yeah.
They want the best for their kids. They want I get that. But you have more respect when you're out there and you earn it.
Yep.
Right.
And I believe that truthfully. And don't get me going in that direction, because I think today's kids are spoiled.
Well,
to a certain degree. They think this is what I should have. Joey down the street has it. Why can't I have one? Right. Forget about it. Go work, you lazy little.
Well, everybody, when they're of driving age, you just told the story off the air when your first car, right? Now today, if there's a family with 3 kids, when they become driving age, they expect the vehicle. They expect the keys, right? We had our thumbs out back in the old days, right? How are you going to get to the beach? You go out to 495 or 110 and you stick your thumb out, and somebody's going to.
It would take you an hour and a half to get there too.
That's what.
When you went to Central Catholic, how much was Central Catholic back then?
I think, and if I recall, all 4 of us went there, and at the time there was always 3 of us. Because we're only a year and I believe it was a $3,000 package for the multiple kids back then. I'm not sure how they do it now, because my kids.
How much do you think it is now? Any idea?
Probably
I bet it's over 15.
Well, I think it is. I think when my kids all went through, and they've been out 10 years plus, and it was about 7,000 or 8,000 a piece. There's no more package deals, so I would say it's probably up to 20,000 now per kid, I would think.
High school.
I think St. John's is 25. So it's expensive. There's a ton of scholarship money and aid that's available, and of course such a great school still. I mean, I think
I love going there. At first I didn't want to go. My mother just made it so miserable for me. I said, I'll go. I'll take the exam to get in. I figured I wouldn't pass it anyway. And what happened?
Yeah, look what happened.
Congratulations.
So we went from, and I always tell the story that, our dad died, our mom was raising us, but what did she do? She put us through 8 years of St. Patrick's with the nuns. And this is back in the 60s when every teacher had the nun with the habit. So we went 8 years with the nuns and 4 years with the brothers. So we had 12 years of, if you get out of line, believe me, you'd feel it.
How many lay people were in that?
Did you attack any brothers at any point in that?
No, they attacked us, Lou. It was all full attack by the brothers. And those were some tough times, but I think they taught you well. And we had a lot of respect for authority, including not only the parents, but of course, teachers, police officers, firefighters. That was the authority.
Central Catholic back in the 60s was basketball. Yeah. They were unbelievable in basketball.
Well, yeah, Don Leidick back then. He was a big name in your years, right, Mike?
Football.
Sure.
No?
Forget about it.
Right.
No, they just didn't have a good football. And they had one of the nicest, most experienced coaches in the area, Mr. Moynihan. His son went to Central, Biff Moynihan. He was a quarterback. They kept him back a year so he could have 5 years of playing football. Back then you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, I got one more break. You're going to stick around with me,
Sure,
right?
of course. Yeah.
Right. We'll be right back, everybody.
Can you turn that fan on?
That's Bob.
Ciao, this is Esther of You, Me, and Sicily. I want to talk to you about Tommy Amin and the great staff at Butcher Boy Market. Families, foodies, and home chefs come together at Butcher Boy to talk good food and create traditions. They offer the best in quality cuts of beef, pork, lamb, poultry, and restaurant-style steaks and chops, produce, all of their produce is hand-selected to complement any meal or even to make it your main course. Their deli serves fresh roast beef, turkey, and beautiful imported Italian cold cuts, cheeses, and antipasto. And don't forget the Butcher Boy Bakery, featuring sweet delectables from all over the state, as well as their very own bakery. That's Butcher Boy, where the secret to a great steak is, of course, the steak. Located at 1077 Osgood Street in North Andover, Massachusetts, in the Butcher Boy Plaza. Ciao!
This is Tom Zappala. Located in the heart of downtown Haverhill, the Haverhill Beef Company is a full-service, old-fashioned butcher shop and meat market that continues to be a valued family tradition since 1952. Peter and Monica Carboni's Haverhill Beef offers individualized service from an outstanding selection of marinated sirloin tips, homemade sausage, marinated chicken, and thick, juicy Chairman Reserve steaks. Your family deserves the best, so call Peter at 978-374-4795 or visit their website at www.haverhillbeef.com.
Sisters and co-owners Antoinetta and Elisa brought their family authentic Italian recipes from Molise, Italy, and a warm and welcoming dining experience to its customers at Ristorante Molise. The combination of their meals made from natural, homemade, fresh ingredients, and your time with family and friends together at dinner time is unmatched. Located in Market Square in the heart of Amesbury, they're open for dinner Tuesday through Sunday from 3 to 9 p.m. and are available for private parties during off hours. For reservations, call them at 978-388-4844. That's 978-388-4844. Legacy Care Law Firm provides estate planning and elder law services to people in the greater Merrimack Valley and southern New Hampshire areas, with offices in North Andover and Woburn, Massachusetts, as well as Nashua and Salem, New Hampshire. Discussing family and financial matters with an attorney can be intimidating, but our goal is to help you prepare for the future as you preserve your legacy. We help clients qualify for government medical benefits and ensure their estates are preserved for their families so they don't need to worry about their estate being wiped out by high nursing home expenses. Legacy Care Law Firm attorneys are here to support your journey toward a more secure financial future.
At Catadella Funeral Home, we reinvest in our business to provide your family with the best facilities. It begins with a beautifully landscaped exterior, parking for 250 vehicles, and a comfortable and inviting access to our renovated interior. Funerals can be costly, so you should review and compare plans to make sure you receive services that are fairly priced. I invite you to experience the Catadella difference in cost, facility, and service.
Catadella's honoring and celebrating the lives of the people we loved, providing exceptional care since 1929.
Italian artisan cuisine combines simple, fresh ingredients with time-honored preparation to create an incredible culinary experience. At Tuscan Kitchen, located in Salem's historic Depot District, talented chefs prepare everything in-house from scratch for all to see. Guests enjoy their meal literally in our kitchen as food is prepared right in front of you. Wood ovens burn from morning till night, roasting vegetables, baking bread, and firing delightful thin-crust pizzas. Prime steaks are seared on a wood grill. A rotisserie slowly roasts marinated whole chickens and lamb, while a pasta maker creates fresh fettuccine. More than just artisan cuisine, Tuscan Kitchen features the wine bar, live entertainment, weekly wine tastings, and elegant private dining and event space. Call 603-952-4875 or visit TuscanKitchen.com to make a reservation and learn more about the culinary adventure that awaits. In Italy, cooking is an art form. Tuscan Kitchen. Experience artisan Italian.
Orthopedics Northeast and Essex Orthopedics have joined forces as Mobility Bone and Joint Institute to bring improved access and outstanding medical care. While our name has changed, our dedication to exceptional care remains the same as it has for the past 30 years. Same location, 16 Pelham Road, Salem, New Hampshire.
This is Cindy.
And Mike Kunstler,
Owners and operators of Four Oaks Country Club and Grazie Italian Restaurant in Drake, Massachusetts.
Grazie Italian Restaurant is the hidden gem of the Merrimack Valley.
Why is that?
We have an incredible chef, Oscar Figueroa.
In the words of local famous chef and restaurant owner Lydia Shire,
Oscar thrives on hard work.
He is capable and gifted.
No one makes better food. Scallops, seared to perfection.
House-made ravioli with farm-fresh local corn.
And buttery, tender, lazy man's lobster, just to name a few.
You have to come experience Grazie Italian Restaurant for yourself.
Grazie Italian Restaurant, located at 4 Oaks Country Club, 80 Meadow Creek Drive in Drake, Massachusetts. Hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon. You were trying to ask me a question while that commercial was running. What is it?
Well,
if you're going to ask me, you might as well ask everybody.
We're an open door policy here, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
You can say anything. When we talked about the wonderful St. Alfio's, is Mr. Tony Parmigiano still the president?
Absolutely.
And Tony was an old classmate.
Tony's done an awesome job. This is his final term, and the society is really a lot of good things have happened.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you like Crispelli's?
I love them.
Do you? You know, I know you're not in the area anymore, but tomorrow I think it's from 2 to 8 or something similar to that. You have to go on their website to take a look. They'll be selling Crispelli's again. They did it all through Lent on Fridays.
That's great.
And it was awesome. And this year, Sandalfio Society is taking over the Crispelli business. And they're going to be making their own. The recipe's authentic, the equipment's authentic, the whole freaking 9 yards. So it should be the line. You might as well bring a chair so you can sit, because the older you get, the legs don't seem to hold up as much. You were Mayor 57, number 57. I do have a couple of complaints. I have one major one.
Still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Growing up at the corner of Broadway and Essex, we had, Louis, one of the finest looking post offices. I don't care where you went, in Boston, you name it. That post office was gorgeous. White marble on the outside. Am I right?
Sure.
What in the world possessed whoever was in charge at that time? I'm not mentioning no names because I don't know the mayor. I think this all took place under the skies of urban renewal, if I'm not right. Correct, right?
Sure. I think this would have been in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe, Mike.
That was my guess.
Yeah.
And to put a freaking McDonald's,
they get the
whoa.
Listen, one of the most famous restaurants in the city, Bishop's Restaurant, when is now a Wendy's. And
so we have McDonald's and we have Wendy's.
But what happened with
Bishop's
that
is a Wendy's now?
Yeah, there's a Wendy's there and a 7-Eleven
and
a gas station. But what happened back then, because I can speak on that, because I believe Bishop's closed in New Year's of 2001 or 2002.
So that was like your first year, right?
And the family actually wanted to
Bashara?
They wanted to deed that over to the city.
No.
And a police station, because we were talking about the police station. So it would have abutted the police station. And then one thing led to another. It ended up being a family issue, though, where the family chose to just sell the property instead of deeding it over. So you always have those issues. The post office, it would be something to know about what the story was leading up to that.
There is a story?
No, if there is, I mean, I
thought you were going to give us something we didn't know here. What do you think I brought you here for? Because you're pretty?
I was, I don't think I ever went into that old post office again, because
you had to.
Remember, that was in North Lawrence. We used to hang around in South Lawrence back then. But that old post office building.
Hang out in North Lawrence. Come on, Mike.
I wonder if there was a time when they just shut it down and then the federal government sold it. You know, there's got to be a story, but we're going to research that.
Building had to be an historical building.
I'm going to research that. And the next time I come on, I'm going to have a full scope answer.
I want the story behind the story, Lou.
That's right. It's federal property, not a city property.
Well, because the post office as we know it now when was that? That would have been constructed, I'm sure, before they tore the old one down. So
that would have been all underneath that urban renewal program. So it was about that frame.
Right.
I mean, to take out Oak Street and White Street and that Lebanese section, that neighborhood, they just destroyed it. The city of Lawrence was special. You know why? We had good mayors. 2, they were neighborhoods. Mount Vernon, South Lawrence, Irish stronghold. All right. If you had a vowel, don't apply because you can't. We're not going to sell you nothing. No, I'm only kidding. But, you had Germans, you had the English, you had the Italians in North Lawrence. Every ethnic group, they had their own doctors, they had their own stores. It was beautiful. You'd go out with 1 week, you'd be out with a girl who was Irish. Next week, you'd be out with a girl German. You ate like a king. You had the best of foods. It was nice.
Yeah. Well, that's why people immigrated here because they had a landing place.
The immigrant
They
city.
had a landing place.
I'm sorry?
The immigrant city. That's why it's known as the immigrant city.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had places, places to work and
I liked it when it was neighborhood. There was no bussing kids around, spending fortunes of money on bringing a kid from his neighborhood to, God forbid, someplace else.
Well,
the kids would walk. You'd be your friends. You'd be hossing around, and you have patrol leaders. And
I mean, the city and state budgets, when you look at totally out of whack now. I mean, just an example. The Lawrence High that we built was $110 million. Andover High proposal
450
was $500 million that they voted down.
Yeah.
And it's like,
at the end the VOTEC, $500 million, $400+ million.
Yeah.
How much?
$400+ million to read. It was close to $500 million.
And you wonder, sometimes you want to go back to the old days of the reading, writing, and arithmetic in a classroom where you learned. You didn't need, and again, maybe I'm aging myself out now, Mike, but you didn't need
what
all
do you mean,
this
you think?
Technology and all this marble floors and,
nothing but the best.
I know, but somebody's got to pay for it. And
that's it.
But
I mean, you got to learn how to say no. You have to have committees that are going to stand there and make a case why we can't afford it. End of conversation. Right. End of conversation.
Well, and then I think you see some of these towns now, they're voting these expansion plans down because
they have
going to hit their tax.
They have to.
Well, we just had a debt exclusion election in Newburyport about a rec center for $8 million.
Right.
And it's like it got voted through. I was shocked. I thought it was going to be voted down pretty extensively.
Yeah, so that I didn't realize. I see a lot of signs out there, Lou, for that. I wasn't sure, but so that passed. That was just
passed resoundingly.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like we're already paying 60% of our budget at a minimum. I don't know what the percentage is in Newburyport, but it's mandated in the state. 60% of your budget goes to education, right?
Right.
There's all kinds of facilities in the town to do a rec center. There are plenty of baskets in town.
Right.
I don't know. It's silly.
Yeah.
I thought it was silly.
Something for somebody who's retired and living on a fixed budget, man, it's no joke. I don't care. You can't go into a supermarket. You can't do anything.
Yep.
And you've probably seen it with insurance rates. I mean, these insurance companies, it's a business. You have to make money to stay in business. With some of these major disasters, and there was a ton of them last year, between the fires, between the earthquakes, between this and that, they just can't afford it, can't support it. The only way they can do it is raise their rates. And you got a guy like you shopping around trying to get the best for his client. It's difficult no matter what. Yep. And all it's doing is going up and up and up and up.
My flood insurance just
I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But if I had grandchildren, I'd be a little concerned about the future.
What I tell everybody is on your policies, homeowners and auto, check them every year when they renew. Just take a look at it. Call your broker and just say, hey, can you give me a little advice? Can I save a little money here? Because a lot of times once they're in place, we tend to just let them renew and the rates go up and we don't ask the questions. So I always just leave this with, make a phone call and say, do I have the right coverage now? Can I save some money? What can I do? And there's always a number of ways.
Can I ask you a question about that? And I don't know if you can answer it. I'm an MPIUA customer. From agency to agency, it's fixed price from agency to agency, right? You can't really shop that around. It is what it is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like we have them as well. So if somebody's looking to convert, the rates are the same.
Yeah.
One of the things we do is make sure you're getting the right credits, like MAP free, for example, on the auto, they give a AAA credit.
Yeah.
And until a broker tells you that, Arbella will give a golf credit, a Dana-Farber credit, Special Olympics.
Oh, I see.
So if you were going to give to those charities anyways, you get a nice savings. So each company has their own thing.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's important to ask the question.
One thing that's surprised me, and I read this recently, that your credit score has a lot to do about what you pay for insurance. Is that true?
Sure. Especially your first year when you're buying a house. Like, take Lou, for example, who would be probably an 810 credit score, right?
Closing.
Oh, easy.
You know, yeah.
Not bad.
So what the companies look at is that, you know, this guy's probably going to be a good pay. He's got a good credit. So we're going to put you in a different tier, and it'll save you some money on that compared to somebody who.
I found that so weird that the credit score had a lot to do with
everything. Credit score is huge now.
Yeah, credit score is huge.
Yeah.
And then what happens along the way is if you miss a payment or you're historically late, that's when they could reverse it and put you into a lower tier upon renewal. And then you might be paying a little more because of a poor history of payment. So it's all computerized now. That's what happens. But I always say, ask the question upon renewal. Make sure you have the right coverage.
If people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
TA Sullivan Agency, 978-681-8200. Or we have a great website. You can connect with us on the website, www.tasullivanagency.com.
In 63 years in business.
Since 1963. So we're almost there. Yeah.
I like it.
It's all good.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I had a good time with you.
Great.
I always do.
Mike,
it's been a while since you've been on with us, and I thought we were going to talk a little bit more about your trip to Italy, but we'll save that
next time.
And the post office. Italy and the post office will be the next.
That post office really fries my cojones.
I might even send you some information over the weekend on
All right.
Just so you can sleep.
Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week and enjoy. We'll be back next week. And Louis, who do we have next week?
I have no idea. Who do we have next week?
Scott Kerman.
Scott Kerman.
Scott Kerman. You know who Scott is?
I do not.
Fantastic author. He's a humorist, stand-up comedian, and he writes. I love his style of writing. He's absolutely superb. He writes a column for the Tribune. The Methuen boy, and we're going to be talking with him next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.